Hello friends, in this video we will be revising about murmur. So what is a murmur? A murmur is basically vibrations which are produced due to the turbulence of the blood flow. So murmur is a vibrations which are produced due to turbulence of blood flow across the structures in the heart. So what is this turbulence? Turbulence means there is a pressure and velocity difference in the blood flow which is occurring time to time in the heart, and that's why the murmur is occurring. So as we know the basics, this is S1 and this is A2 P2 will constitute together S2 and again S1. Whatever murmur will be there between S1 and S2, this is systole, and S2 and S1, this is diastole. So murmur between S1 and S2 will be systolic, and S2 and S1 will be diastolic murmur. So this is how we will differentiate between systolic murmur and diastolic murmur. Clinically, when you hear any murmur with the stethoscope, you should keep one hand at the carotid artery to appreciate the carotid pulse, as the heart sound S1 is correlate with the carotid pulse. S1 correlate with the upstroke of carotid pulse, and this is how you come to know that murmur is systolic or diastolic. Upstroke of carotid pulse. So this is how you come to know whether it is diastolic or systolic. Next is classification of murmur. So how murmurs are classified? Murmurs are classified according to the time when it occurs. So first we will see the systolic murmurs. Systolic murmurs, ejection systolic. When it will be called ejection systolic? When it starts after S1 and ends before S2. So it is ideally a mid systolic murmur, mid systolic. So if we put it here, mid systolic murmur will be starts after S1 and ends before S2. So here it will be like this. So this is the ejection systolic murmur. Next is pansystolic. As the name indicates, pans means covering the whole time. So it starts with S1 and ends with S2 of that side. So it will occupy whole of this area. It will occupy from here to here. The murmur will range completely. This is pansystolic murmur. Next is late systolic. What do you mean by late systolic? It will start well after S1 and will ends with S2 of that side. So well after S1 means late systolic. It will start after mid systole and it will end in the S2. So what is early systolic murmur? Early systolic murmur starts with S1 and does not reach S2. It will end well before S2. So this is how systolic murmurs are classified: ejection systolic, pansystolic, late systolic and early systolic. Next is diastolic murmurs. In the diastolic murmurs, first will be early diastolic. Early diastolic starts with S2. Duration in diastole is of course variable. So diastole we know it is from S2 to S1, and as early diastolic means after S2 you will hear the murmur for some time like this, and here it will terminate. Next is mid diastolic. Mid diastolic which start after S2 ends before S1. So it will start well after S2 somewhere here and end before S1. So this will be mid diastolic murmur. Then hollow diastolic. Early diastolic murmurs occupying the whole of the diastole from S2 and S1. As we will progress further, we will understand that as the severity of the lesion increases, the diastolic murmur duration also increases. So this is the cause why a early diastolic murmur can become a mid diastolic and also come in the late diastole. So it is hollow diastole character. Then continuous murmur. Continuous murmur is beginning anywhere in the systole. Main thing is it continues into diastole, accompanying the S2, overlapping the S2, encompassing or overlapping the S2. So it will start somewhere. It will start somewhere in the systole. Suppose it starts here, then it continues. It has overlapped the S2 also, and then it finishes somewhere here. So this is called as continuous murmur. Why it is continuous? Because it has started somewhere in the systole, it has overlapped the S2 heart sound, and then it goes in the diastole also. So that is what we called as a S2 continuous murmur. So this was the classification of the murmur. Next is the grading of the murmur. Now clinically, when we express the murmur, when we tell the murmur, we tell it by the grading. So what is the grading of the murmur? It is grade 1 if faint murmur is heard on careful auscultation. So it is called a specialist murmur. Specialist murmur. So it will be heard only on careful auscultation. Grade 2 will be easily audible but not loud. This is called physician's murmur. Physicians. It is easily audible but it is not loud. Grade 3 is easily audible, loud murmur but without thrill. So what is a thrill? Thrill is a palpable murmur, such that from where area you can hear the murmur with best quality, you have to put your hand there, and if you are feeling the vibrations, then it is called as a thrill. So in grade 3 it is easily audible loud murmur but without thrill. In grade 4 murmur will be there, thrill with a thrill, and it is loud also. So grade 5 again thrill, loud murmur. With stethoscope partially applied to the chest, you can hear the murmur well. Grade 6 is murmur audible with the stethoscope half an inch away from the chest. So even you are not keeping your stethoscope there, just half inch above you have kept your stethoscope, still you can listen the murmur. That is the grade 6 murmur. So this is how you have to grade the murmur. And mainly the point to understand is grading is mainly for systolic murmurs, because systolic murmurs are more often organic or they can be non-organic, such as functional. Non-organic or functional. So what do you mean by organic? Organic means there is a structural heart disease. There is actual some heart disease which is causing the murmur, then we will say the murmur is organic. If there is no structural defect or functional defect in the heart, still the murmur is occurring because of flow, it is called as functional murmur. So it is because of flow. So what the difference is, the functional murmur will always be about equal to or less than grade 3. It will never be more than grade 3. And structural murmur, it will be grade 4 and above. If it is severe, it can be grade 3 also, but if the grade is 4 and above, then you have to consider that these murmurs are always organic. And if it is between 1, 2 and 3, it can be an organic murmur or it can be a non-organic murmur. So this is why grading is very necessary. In cases of diastolic murmurs are usually always pathological, and that's why they are not graded. Their presence, mere presence, indicates that there is something problem in the heart and we have to evaluate the problem. So this is how we grade the murmur. Next is innocent murmur. Innocent murmur, as I tell you, it is another name is functional murmur. When the heart is structurally normal and functionally normal, still you are hearing the murmur, then it is called as the innocent murmur. Now what are the causes of innocent murmur? Here are some causes. Then it can be heard in mammary shuffle, venous hum, then supraclavicular murmur, pulmonary systolic murmur. So these are the causes of functional murmur where the heart is normal but still we are hearing the murmur. Next is evaluation. Now how to evaluate a murmur? As in the pulse, we have evaluated the pulse with rate, rhythm, character, condition of the vessel wall. In the murmur, we will evaluate in points of sight, timing of the murmur, grading, length, character, conduction of the murmur, relation to the physiological act or maneuver such as respiration, then hand grip, exercise, relation to this, and next is accompanying features. So each of these points will convey us the source of the murmur, the severity of the murmur, and we can evaluate the lesion from which it is coming. So first we will take sight of the murmur. So what is the importance of sight of the murmur? So if we heard the murmur based at mitral area, now we will see sites one by one: mitral area, tricuspid area, pulmonary area, aortic area. So sight, if the murmur is heard based in the mitral area, So which are those murmur which are heard best at the mitral area? Mid diastolic murmur of mitral valve origin, which is mitral stenosis murmur, mild or trivial mitral regurgitation murmur, then early diastolic murmur of AR, then ejection systolic murmur of calcific AS in elderly with emphysema. Now why the aortic stenosis wall murmur will be more in the mitral area? The thing to explain here is this murmur of AS is not heard in the aortic area, never. It is never heard in the aortic area, it is heard only in the mitral area, and it is mistaken for MR as it is systolic murmur at the mitral area. What happens in this is, as the patient is emphysematous, there is a very much large gap between the chest wall and the heart, and only the apex can touch the chest wall, and that's why the systolic murmur is more appreciable at the apex where it is the heart is close to the chest wall, and that's why in calcific AS in elderly you will hear the systolic murmur in the mitral area. So these are the murmur which are heard best in the mitral area. Next is murmur heard best at the tricuspid area. These are the tricuspid stenosis, tricuspid regurgitation, and small VSD. So these were easy to remember. In tricuspid area we know what is the tricuspid wall, so either it is stenosed or regurgitation, we will hear the murmur better. Then murmur heard over the left sternal border. Murmur heard over the left sternal border, main and most common murmur heard is pansystolic murmur of VSD. It is commonest murmur which we hear at along the left sternal border. Then the ejection systolic murmur of the AS, early diastolic murmur of the AR. Now we know that left sternal border, it extends from the second intercostal space to say fourth or fifth intercostal space, and aortic wall is situated in the second intercostal space. So these murmurs are conducted, or their vibrations are conducted to the left sternal border, and that's why the murmurs of aortic stenosis, aortic regurgitation, we can hear them better at the left sternal border. One of the better DD is ventricular septal defect, which is the commonest murmur along the left sternal border. Next is along the pulmonary area. The murmur that's heard best along the pulmonary area is ejection systolic murmur of pulmonary stenosis, flow murmur of pulmonary origin in ASD. This is also called as ejection systolic murmur, which is heard in the pulmonary area, but it is due to flow murmur in the atrial septal defect. Next is continuous murmur of PDA. This is a very important point, as if there is a case of patent ductus arteriosus, we will hear the continuous murmur best at pulmonary area. Next is ventricular septal defect murmur, as then at aortic area. Now the murmurs which heard best at aortic area, simply it will be because of the aortic wall. So if there is aortic stenosis, aortic wall sclerosis, then it will heard the murmur best. One of the different point about aortic area is murmur never heard at aortic area, and it is mitral stenosis. Mitral stenosis murmur will never be heard at the aortic area. So these are some of the points that we should remember, that which murmur are heard best in which area. Okay. Then next is the timing. Now what timing gives us? Timing gives us the clue about site of origin of the murmur. So what is the timing? Either it can be early systolic, mid systolic, or late systolic, or mid diastolic. So we will see one by one. First, the ejection systolic murmur. As I have told you, the another name for this is mid systolic murmur. Mid systolic murmur. So what are the causes of mid systolic? Now what do you mean by ejection systolic murmur? It means that ventricle is ejecting the blood into the aorta, and the murmur is produced due to that, and that's why it is called as aortic ejection systolic murmur. So if we draw the heart, here is LV and here is aorta. If the blood is pushed into the from LV into the aorta, and if this is stenosed, as we know, some tube, if we constrict it, there will be turbulence produced into the flow of the blood, and that's why there will be murmur. And so whenever left ventricle will undergo ejection phase, contract, and it will go into the aorta, then the turbulence will be produced and murmur produced will be ejection systolic murmur. So what is the localizing value? Main is LV outflow obstruction. It can be due to aortic stenosis, which can be supravalvular or subvalvular. On the right side, if it is present, it is due to increased flow, increased pressure, and dilatation of the vessel beyond the wall. Dilatation of the vessel beyond the pulmonary wall, ideally saying. Dilatation of pulmonary artery, we can hear the ejection systolic murmur in cases of dilatation of pulmonary artery. So causes are different. On the left side it will be due to obstruction, on the right side it can be due to increased flow, increased pressure and dilatation. Next is patent ductus arteriosus, that we should know why the ejection systolic murmur will be there in the patent ductus arteriosus, because of the pulmonary artery hypertension again. And then ejection systolic murmur like murmurs, they are seen in the VSD. In small muscular VSD there is wall like mechanism which will produce the ejection systolic murmur. In large VSD there will be the septal defect is so large that there is equalization of the pressure between the two chambers of the heart, so that's why there will be ejection systolic murmur. Main disease to remember in ejection systolic murmur is aortic stenosis always, because it is classical of aortic stenosis. Second thing to remember is in dilatation of the pulmonary artery, it will be ejection systolic murmur. These two causes are very much important. Then pansystolic murmur. As we know what is pansystolic murmur, it will extend completely from S1 to S2. So it will extend completely from S1 to S2. Only 3 sites are capable of pansystolic murmur. Now why only 3 sites are capable? What is pansystolic murmur? When the heart contracts, when the LV contracts, it will eject the blood into aorta. And if here there is wall deficiency which leading to regurgitation of the wall, so a large amount of the blood will be regurgitated from left ventricle into left atrium at the start of the from the start of the ventricular contraction to the end of the ventricular contraction. So it will occupy whole systole, and that's why there will be a pansystolic murmur produced. So only 3 sites are capable. One is ventricular septal defect, MR, as I told you here. Same can happen on other side from RV to RA. So the one is TR. So never be confused. There can only be 3 causes of pansystolic murmur. One is ventricular septal defect, mitral regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation. So as I told you, site VSD, persistent high pressure difference between the left ventricular and right ventricle. As here is VSD, if we consider, the blood will flow from LV into RV, and because of this blood flow during systole, there is a turbulence produced which will lead to murmur. Then MR, persistent high pressure difference between LV and LA, and TR, persistent high pressure difference between RV and RA, right ventricle and right atrium, as we know. So these are the basic causes of pansystolic murmur. Now why there is late systolic murmur? The importance of late systolic murmur is that it is very localizable. Only there is one cause. One is mitral valve prolapse with mitral regurgitation. Only in this condition there will be late systolic murmur present. So you have to remember this cause, that MVP with MR. Now in MR we know there is pansystolic murmur, but in MVP what happens, there is systolic billowing of the mitral wall during start of the systole. So there will not be any murmur at the start of the systole because the wall is billowed into the atria. So it will take time for the wall to come at place, and that's why the murmur is late systolic, when even if MR is there, mitral regurgitation is there. So this is the classical example of late systolic murmur, mitral valve prolapse with mitral regurgitation. Now diastolic murmurs. Diastolic murmurs, as I told you, they are almost always considered to be pathological. Second point to remember is all named murmurs, such as Austin Flint, that occurs in AR, Graham Still, that occurs in pulmonary regurgitation. All these murmurs, named murmurs, are always a diastolic murmur. This is a basic rule that to remember. No named murmur is systolic. Every named murmur is a diastolic murmur. It is the Austin Flint murmur, Graham Still murmur, it will be diastolic murmur. So in the diastole we know it extends from S2 to S1. It extends from closure of aortic and pulmonary wall to closure of mitral and tricuspid wall. So this period is diastole, and between these there will be diastolic murmur. Now why the murmur is always mid diastolic? There is a reason for that, why the murmur is always a mid diastolic murmur, because we know, as I told you, that This is closure of the aortopulmonary wall. After closure of the aortic pulmonary wall, the mitral and tricuspid wall are already closed. They will not open. So this is a phase of isovolumetric relaxation after S2, isovolumetric relaxation. So S2 is immediately followed by isovolumetric relaxation where both walls are closed. Now as both walls are closed, is blood flow possible? There is no blood flow possible along the wall. So early diastolic period goes in isovolumetric contraction. What happens later on is there is opening of the mitral and tricuspid walls, and because of opening of the mitral and tricuspid walls, there will be turbulence of the flow again from mitral to tricuspid, and that's why the murmur produced is always a mid diastolic murmur. It will never be early diastolic murmur. And so again, which areas are capable of producing mid diastolic murmurs then? Will it be produced by aortic and pulmonary? No, never. It will be only produced by mitral and tricuspid walls, because aortic and pulmonary wall, they stay closed during mid diastolic murmur, so there will be no blood flow from them. Flow can be from mitral and tricuspid wall only. So always remember, the causes of mid diastolic murmurs are mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis. As we know, when after isovolumetric relaxation this wall will open, if the opening is constricted, consider this is RA and RV. So if the opening here is constricted, then there will be turbulence to the blood flow which lead to TS. Same is true on the left side. The murmur will be of mitral stenosis. So this is the cause of mid diastolic murmur, and why there is always a mid diastolic murmur, not never early diastolic murmur. Next is early diastolic murmur. So just now I told you that early diastolic murmur occurs during isovolumetric relaxation period when there is closure of the aortopulmonary wall and both mitral wall and tricuspid wall are also closed. So how can this murmur be produced? It is very simple. After closure of the aortic and pulmonary wall, if these wall are regurgitating, for example, take it this as LV and this as aorta. Now it is LV is relaxing, just ejected the blood into aorta, and after S2 the flow is coming back into the left ventricle because of regurgitation. So due to this turbulence, the murmur will be produced, and that is called as early diastolic murmur. So again, early diastolic murmur can only be produced by aortic and pulmonary sites, because again in the early diastolic period, regurgitation can only occur from aorta as well as pulmonary wall. It cannot be from mitral and tricuspid. So early diastolic murmur, it will be due to pulmonary regurgitation and aortic regurgitation. So this was the very basic, that early diastolic murmur will occur only due to AR or PR, and mid diastolic murmur will occur only due to MS or TS. So we have to remember these things. Now never be confused that early diastolic murmur in which lesion it will occur. It is very simple. Early diastole, there is isovolumetric relaxation period, so only regurgitant volume can come back from aortic and pulmonary sites, and that's why we hear the early diastolic murmur in these lesions. So this was, as I told you, aortic wall regurgitation, backflow of blood occurs with aortic component of sacred heart. Same is true for Gram-Still murmur of pulmonary regurgitation, black flow of blood occurs. So what is a continuous murmur? As I have told you, continuous murmur, it starts somewhere in the systole and overlaps the S2, continues in the diastole, is continuous murmur. Now for the production of continuous murmur, there should always be a communication between two cardiac or extracardiac sites. So there has to be a communication between two cardiac or extracardiac site, then only continuous murmur will occur. So now you can imagine which can be the causes. The causes are such that, so the one thing is in the cardiac, other is in the extracardiac, and communication is in between them. For example, first aortopulmonary window. What happened in these cases? Aorta is connected to the pulmonary artery. Second is patent ductus arteriosus. Third is rupture of sinus of Valsalva. Fourth is arteriovenous fistula. Why arteriovenous fistula? Because there is communication between artery and vein. So there will be production of the turbulence of the blood flow. So these are the causes of continuous murmur, and we have seen why the continuous murmur is produced. Next component, this we have seen the site of the murmur. Now we are going to see the length of the murmur. Now length of the murmur is significant in diastolic murmurs than systolic murmurs. Okay, so what is the importance of length? If the length of diastolic murmur increases, it indicate that the lesion is severe, so severity also increases. This is true mainly for diastolic murmur rather than systolic. Why I am saying this? Because in pansystolic murmur, length cannot exceed. It is already a pansystolic murmur from S1 to S2, so there will be no grading for severity. But in diastole, there is never a hollow diastolic murmur. There is always a mid diastolic murmur or early diastolic murmur. So we can see for the length of the murmur, and if the length of the murmur is more, then it indicates that the lesion is also severe. So this was important about the length of the murmur. Next is character of the murmur. Now we find it difficult that which murmur are high pitch and which murmur are low pitch, and actually there is mixed pitch also. So here it is, if the pressure difference between the two chamber is high, the pitch will be high. If the pressure difference between two chamber is low, the pitch will be low. So high pitch, high frequency, it is seen in cases of mitral regurgitation and aortic regurgitation. So what we have seen is regurgitant lesions produce high pitch, and opposite to that, stenotic lesions will produce low pitch murmur. Well, the stenotic murmur, this holds true for mitral and tricuspid area. The pitch will be mixed in cases of stenotic lesions of aortic and pulmonary area. So this is what the difference is, that there will be high frequency, high pitch in MR and AR, low pitch in MR, MS and TS, and mixed frequency in AS and PS. One good example is VSD also, where there will be mixed frequency, ventricular septal defect. So now never be confused. If the lesion is regurgitant, the pitch will always be high. If lesion is stenotic, pitch will always be low. And in cases of aortic and pulmonary area murmur, it will be mixed. So what are the accompanying features? Now as we have seen the murmur, now if we want to diagnose some disease, we have to see the accompanying features. So if there is ejection systolic murmur at the left ventricular outflow, means if there is ejection systolic murmur in the aortic area, then we have to see the pulse. If it is slow rising, late peaking pulse, we know it is a character of aortic stenosis. So it indicates fixed LV outflow obstruction because AS, it can be valvular, subvalvular. Then Bispherians pulse. If there is ejection systolic murmur at aortic area and you are getting Bispherians pulse, it means that AS is associated some regurgitant lesion such as AS plus AR, as we have seen in causes of pulsus Bispherians. Then early diastolic murmur along left sternal border. If there is early diastolic murmur along left sternal border, we know why early diastolic murmur will be produced. It can produce only in the aortic and pulmonary regurgitation. So if there is collapsing pulse associated, it is a feature of aortic regurgitation. If there is normal pulse, it is a feature of pulmonary regurgitation. Long systolic murmur at second or third space, Then if there is long systolic murmur at second and third space, prominent A wave in the JVP, we have seen the causes. There is severe RV outflow obstruction. It can be due to pulmonary artery hypertension, pulmonary stenosis. If there is ejection click, always there is stenosis. Then mid-diastolic murmur at apex, most common and most important lesion in the CVS. If it is associated with opening snap, loud first touch sound, diastolic thrill and diastolic thrill, S3 is not there. If these three lesions are there, it is always indicative of MS. Always remember, S3 is never present in MS. Never present in MS. It indicates associated regurgitant lesion if there is S3 in cases of mitral stenosis. So if there is mid-diastolic murmur with opening snap, loud first touch sound and diastolic thrill, then it leads to mitral stenosis. And if there is S3, as I told you, it indicates MR, flow murmur due to MR. Then actually this mid-diastolic murmur in MR occurs, indicates that the MR is very severe. It is one of the indicator of severe MR. Okay. Then pansystolic murmur at the left lower sternal border. One of the most common cause we have seen, it is large V wave in JVP, tricuspid regurgitation. Next is MR or AS. It depends on the findings, such as if there is large V wave in JVP, means CV complex, as we have seen in the JVP, it will be TR. If there is forcible and ill sustained apex, it will be mitral regurgitation. If the apex is heaving, forceful and well sustained, then it will be aortic stenosis. So this is how we have gone for the differential diagnosis depending on the accompanying features in the murmur. Long systolic murmur at apex, S3, S4, it will be MR or correlate with AS. So now this is how clinically we will see. Now how will you describe a murmur? Describe a murmur in exams or in your notes. So murmur is described as, now consider I am explaining the murmur of mitral stenosis. So it will be, as it is a stenotic lesion, it will be a low pitched. The murmur in the stenotic lesion is always a rumbling murmur. Low pitch rumbling. Now what is the timing? We will mention low pitch rumbling mid-diastolic murmur. Ideally here I should mention the grade, but as it is diastolic I am not mentioning the grade. In systolic the grade is mentioned. Low pitch rumbling grade dash mid-diastolic murmur. Now in which area you are hearing it best? Heard best in the mitral area with expiration, with patient in the left lateral position, and we will take the accompanying features also, with opening snap, with pre-systolic accentuation. So this is how the murmur of MS will be explained. This is just the model. It can vary. There may be absence of opening snap or pre-systolic accentuation if there is associated atrial fibrillation or severe MS. So this is how we should explain the MS. Now one basic rule that is left is variation with respiration. Variation with respiration, and it is very important to remember this. So variation with respiration is all right sided murmurs increases on inspiration and all left sided murmurs increase on expiration. This is the basic rule. So without anything, the murmurs of tricuspid and pulmonary walls, they will increase on inspiration, and murmurs of mitral and aortic wall, they will increase on expiration. So whether it is MS, MR, AS, AR, whichever lesion can be there, always the murmur will be accentuated in expiration if it is left sided, and same is true for tricuspid and pulmonary wall. It will increase in inspiration. So this is a basic rule. As I have written in this MS also, it is increased with expiration because it is the left sided murmur, so it will increase with expiration. So this was the difference with the variation with the respiration. Next, there is a variation with manuals also, which we will cover in the video of dynamic auscultation. So how to draw the murmurs? These are some of the graphs of the murmurs as we can draw him. So basic is, this is S1, this is A2P2 component of the second heart sound, this is again S1. In early diastolic murmur, we know that this is systole and this is diastole. So it is early diastolic murmur. It will be present just in the early diastole. In the late diastole, it will faint. Mid diastolic murmur with pre-systolic accentuation. It occurs classically in mitral stenosis. So mid diastolic, after opening snap, it is occurring, and pre-systolic accentuation. Here the early diastolic murmur was stopped, but this is pre-systolic accentuation is also there. So we will draw it like this. Then mid diastolic murmur. Again in the mid diastole we have draw it. Pre-systolic murmur, pre-systolic or late diastolic. It is in the late diastole. Continuous murmur starting from the systole, overlapping the S2 and going into the diastole phase. This is continuous. Then again pansystolic murmur occupying all the systole. Ejection systolic murmur, it is a diamond shaped murmur, and it occurs in aortic stenosis. This is ejection click. EC means ejection click. After ejection click, the murmur will start and it will end just before the S2. So this is ejection systolic murmur. Late systolic, this is non-ejection click. NEC means late systolic. As I told you, the cause MVP plus MR will cause late systolic again. So MVP, non-ejection click, and this is how the murmur looks.